the contract is renewed, but in some instances, you have the opportunity for new parties to come in and bid on that management and operation contract. In 2008, that is exactly what happened at NREL. And so what happened was, if you guys could go back, Wendolyn, if you could go back to the presentation for just a sec. I'll keep talking through it. What happened at NREL was that actually occurred, and so in the process of putting a proposal together for the portal, the team that won, the MRI and Battelle team, the commercialization focus for that group came up with an idea about this innovation portal. The idea was that if you did a search at the USPTO, you would identify approximately, at that time, 14,000 U.S. patents and published U.S. patent applications that had been created with DOE funding. There had never been an exhaustive effort to try to get more eyes onto those technologies, to drive licensing out of the laboratories. Many of these technologies sit dormant at the labs, and the idea behind the portal was that if we could get more eyes onto the technologies, licensing and commercialization of these important technologies in the energy efficiency as well as in the renewable energy space would start occurring. Another thing that we thought about when we created the portal was how do we enhance the bundling of technologies across the laboratories. Many times you have technologies that could provide a better solution than they would as individual technologies if they were bundled together. That actually happened recently within the last 3 years with NREL and Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and that kind of drove some of the development of the portal as well. How could we create a place where these kind of activities, such as bundling, could occur? So how do we get the eyes on the portal, on these technologies? We decided that we were going to use the power of the internet and create what at the time was called the Intellectual Property Portal. It has since changed its name to what we think more describes what we're trying to do, and that is the Energy Innovation Portal. We can go to the next slide. So before the portal existed, the technology seekers had to browse 17 national lab websites to try to find the technologies that were available for licensing. Obviously, this causes a bit of trouble when you're not a super experienced user with the national laboratories. Additionally, you did not have direct access to licensing managers who could actually talk to you about these technologies and how they are available to be moved out of the labs. A USPTO search on some of the patents that have been created with DOE funding would show UT Battelle, or as an owner for an Oak Ridge National Lab technology, or the Midwest Research Institute as the owner for a NREL technology. Does not make it simple for people to identify who to contact when they find a technology that they're interested in. The portal has solved that by taking the patents and assigning them to laboratories so that you know exactly who the laboratory is, whether or not you know who the management and operation contractor is for that particular laboratory. The other was to attempt to draw some conclusions about the tie between DOE funding and patent creation. We're not trying to talk about what has come out of the labs in its entirety, but rather just take a snapshot of what that intellectual property portfolio that has been created through DOE funding would look like. Next slide, please. So when you look at the portal, we think that the value can be split up between 3 distinct groups. For companies and entrepreneurs, you're looking at leading-edge technologies that are available for licensing. You're looking at diversifying your portfolio with technologies that have been developed in the laboratory. What we offer on the portal is a business-friendly summary of patents. So you'll hear me mention as we go through this presentation, technology marketing summaries and patents. The portal contains both. The technology marketing summaries are created to be a more business-friendly description of what the technologies are, while the patents, as we all know, are legal documents that contain claims, they contain a description of the technology itself, but aren't always very easy to go through and read. We talked about for companies and entrepreneurs also, and Wendolyn talked about this, accessing the thought leadership of the laboratories and the partners that are part of the portal. So if you want to know what the strengths might be at Ames National Laboratory in Ames, Iowa, they happen to be experts in the metallurgical field. That might not be something that you know, but if you go to the portal and look at the technologies that have come out of Ames and look at the landing page that Ames will maintain as we go forward, you'll see the kind of things that that particular lab has. And that same thought leadership, as unique as it might be at each individual lab, will be highlighted by the technologies that are shown on the portal and the information that is shown for each particular laboratory. Investors can also find a lot of information at the portal. They like to typically, especially in the VC world and in the angel world, look at technologies that are breakthrough, that are new, that offer tremendous potential. One of the things that we're going to be adding to the portal, in addition to the content that is existing there now, is what we're going to call emerging technologies. Now, as laboratories, we can't share everything with you until we have a published patent application to protect the idea, the concept, or the process. However, with the emerging technologies, we can share with you what we call non-confidential summaries of these technologies so that you can get an idea of what's there, an idea of what it is and what it might do, and then reach out to talk to the particular laboratory who has that concept to begin discussions about how you might partner, help move it forward, or in some instances license that idea. For the Department of Energy, we're really focusing on moving our taxpayer-funded technologies into the market. Again, much of the work that goes on at NREL and the other national labs are funded through taxpayer dollars. We would love to see these technologies move into the market and show impact that the research that has been ongoing at the laboratories makes in the marketplace. We want to drive the licensing of these technologies. That's really the focus of the portal. And then, as I mentioned previously, create those linkages between funding and innovation. You go to the next slide, please. What we have here is a brief description of the patents and summaries in the portal. The portal itself is a simple web application with a database on the back end that contains the content and a searchable web user interface on the front end. The content is patents, and I want to stress that the patents that are contained in the portal are covering all areas of DOE research, from that occurs on the science side to the most fundamental aspects, to that occurs in the Office of Nuclear Energy, to that occurs in the Office of Electricity, and, of course, that occurs for energy efficiency research within EERE. So the patents number greater than 15,000 in the portal right now, 15,000 individual data points, whereas the marketing summaries, which are the focused content on things that our labs are pushing out and trying to license, we have more than 310 of those right now. So when you describe the patents, we typically have called them low quality because it's a patent, and from a business perspective, it takes time to be able to go through that patent, but high quantity, meaning there's lots of them. There's 15,000, as I said. The marketing summaries are very high quality from a business and commercialization perspective, but there's not going to be as many of them on there. The target audience for patents tend to be attorneys, while marketing summaries we're focusing on business professionals. Fields, as I mentioned previously in a patent, include abstracts, claim, prior art, descriptions, inventors, who actually did the preparation of the patent application itself, and then who the reviewer might be at the USPTO. Important information, granted, but when you take a look from a business perspective, you want to know a focused description, the focused benefits of the technology, where we believe the application of the technology may exist, and who can I contact to get information. That's what the focus is on the marketing summaries. I mentioned that the technology areas for the patents are all DOE, while the marketing summaries are the EERE mission space. They haven't been all funded by the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Office. Rather, they fit within that market space, and it may have come from various other parts of the DOE infrastructure. I mentioned that to tie back a little bit to what Wendolyn said previously, that the labs have transitioned themselves and have taken much of the learning that occurred when they created the atomic bomb and maintained the arsenal that we have here in the United States. A lot of that learning and knowledge has now been expanded upon and forwarded through looking technologies in alternative market areas, and you can see that by looking at the technology summaries that focus on energy efficiency in the portal. In the end, a patent is trying to show a technology. Marketing summaries are trying to highlight commercialization. How do we license these technologies and develop them? Next slide, please. Just to show you a brief overview of what's in the portal right now, this slide shows the patent database. As I mentioned, there's 15,000 patents covering all aspects of DOE research in there. This shows the percentage of those that are assigned to the various laboratories. You can see that the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration laboratories, being Sandia, Los Alamos, and Lawrence Livermore, have quite a few of the patents that have been funded by the Department of Energy work. And you would expect that. But you also can look and see that Brookhaven has a percentage of it. Argonne, Idaho, Lawrence Berkeley, Oak Ridge, NREL, Pacific Northwest all have significant patent portfolios that have been created by Department of Energy funding. I'll also point out that there's a fair amount of technologies and patents that are listed on the portal that don't have a lab tie. That could be because they were funded through the Department of Energy by some means, such as a funding opportunity notice. Could be a small business project. You can also scan through those, and those particular patents will show up in any search that you do on the portal. Next slide, please. The next slide shows the content of the market summaries. And we have identified when we created the portal, or we had identified when we created the portal, 14 technology areas within the EE or emission space. When you look at those from an energy efficiency perspective, many of the technologies that are offered in here simply will offer enhancements to the way energy is used in the U.S. Some of them fall into the renewable energy space. Some of them actually fit into both spaces, where you have a renewable technology that improves energy efficiency. So we've tried to break it out into these various areas, and if you look onto the right, you'll see a pie graph that shows the percentages of the marketing summaries that fit into the technology areas. Building energy efficiency is a large area of research within the national labs. How do you make buildings more efficient? I'd point you this because of the focus of this particular group, that there are technologies that focus on energy efficiency within the building realm and are listed on the portal. I also point out the energy models section. This is software solutions. Many of these software solutions